the coaching process at Ohio State is more art than science. Welcome to the live show at Roosters, brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems, and of course, a fun casual joint. That's Justin Zwick, Jeremy Birmingham, Bobby Carpenter. I am Austin Warden. Art, I guess, are we calling him Art? Artie? Arthur Smith? I've never met
Arthur.
him.
I think Arthur is the way to go
Arthur,
with that. Yeah.
I don't know. I was told that he goes by Art. So
I mean, that's like
Artie.
that's like the second biggest coaching hire we had of the last week.
Well, you want to start with that one?
Well, I mean,
it's pretty juicy.
It is really juicy, and the fact that his daughter opened the door for me today, walking in here, who is a hostess at the fine Roosters on Olentangy. Nick said he was returning for his third tour of duty here, and the good news for the Buckeyes, like he won national titles in his first two. So I guess you bring him in. All I do, Google me.
Can't leave him out.
To be clear, Bobby's talking about Anthony Schlegel.
Was that Faith
that I saw?
Yeah.
I thought that looked like I did not have any idea she worked here, though.
Looks like a prettier version of Schlegel in the face.
Well, yeah. It's like,
is there such a thing?
How can,
Anthony's
one face be prettier than Schleg's?
Anthony's got really like good-looking eyes for a dude. I mean, but his daughter has him on.
You look into him a lot during the day. I know. You see those.
So, well, I thought we might talk about Schleg's and winter workouts in the second half.
Well, we'll table that.
Okay.
Schleg's was
because I think
for the second biggest coaching hire that we have here.
Let's move on to something of lesser importance. Ohio State having an offensive coordinator.
He was pumped. Because there was the thought that maybe it would be internal, and I think there's a lot of people believing the conspiracies. Well, just because Ryan hasn't hired somebody yet, like they didn't get to Chip Kelly till like a couple weeks before spring ball. By the way, that was after the 2 weeks of Bill O'Brien, the Bill O'Brien era, undefeated. By the way,
Matt Patricia, I believe we double checked. That was like February 12th.
Last
year. So
there's nothing going on right now of major importance. Like there's no recruit. I mean, yeah, you can go on the road, but
there's still guys in the portal. But
but you don't.
Most of the good ones are out of there.
Yes, you've gotten who you really need. Yeah. You go around and Birm. I mean, the coaches now, they're like, unless these guys are like, hey, I'm going to commit to you, and what does that even mean at this point? Like a couple of the guys we hadn't even talked to them until the summer, and they came on a visit, and then they committed.
Yeah.
We had guys that, hey, we love you, you've been here 10 times. Someone paid me more. See you later.
Bye bye.
So that's why the coaches last week were on the road. They're visiting all of their commitments in the class of 2027. So. Like every coach that was on the staff at the time was out on the road at some point in the last 2 weeks. And, to your point, there was not a lot going on, but the NFL playoffs had to finish up for most teams. And so for Ohio State, for Ryan Day, like when Arthur Smith became available, it's like, well, now we have another guy to talk to. And that wasn't really the plan 2 weeks ago. But that's why he has been preaching this whole time. Like, I don't need to hurry because once things happen, I'm going to have a lot better pool of candidates to choose from. And that you get Art Smith, a guy that's not only – like directly leaving a job with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who he led to a division title in the AFC North, despite the fact that their offense was underwhelming with just no talent.
That's what I told somebody. Like, they don't really throw the ball. They used a lot of tight ends. I'm like, name me their second receiver. So Roman Wilson? Like, was that the answer?
Right. So take a look at the skill position talent.
Like, outside of what's his name, like, and they go, they found a way to beat Baltimore without DK Metcalf. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how that happened, how that was possible. I don't think John Harbaugh knows how it happened either.
With a 42-year-old quarterback,
who could
not move.
So you got a guy like we talked last year about like the box checks. Like, okay, a guy maybe who's been a head coach, a guy who has some NFL experience. Well, this guy has NFL head coaching experience and has been a coordinator
3 years ago. So not like Matt Patricia was a head coach 8 years ago and was out of football when Ohio State hired him. So like that felt to me like more of a risk because you're like, well, he hasn't even been a full-time coach in the NFL this past year. Arthur Smith was an offensive coordinator for a playoff team who was a former NFL head coach 3 years ago. He was a playoff coordinator 2 weeks ago. Like that is the power of Ohio State football is pretty impressive when you consider that this is a guy who was being talked about, at least in some circles, still as a head coach interview over the last couple of weeks. Like the people who are like against the hire have to be Steelers fans or Falcons fans, I guess, because I don't know how you can look at it objectively and think anything other than this is a home run.
With the Falcons, that's what I was talking with Steel Chambers about this, and he's an Atlanta guy. He's like, people just didn't think he used the talent well enough, or maybe that was the case. But like they were never bad. They were 7-10 3 years in a row, which is kind of like what the NFL designs you to do to be 10-7.
It is the league of parity. Yeah.
So It wasn't that they were bad, and it's your first time head coaching.
Also, what was their record the last 2 years?
Well, exactly.
Without him.
Boom, exactly. It wasn't like, they went 12-5.
When they had better quarterback play finally, when they had a first-round pick at quarterback in Michael Penix, when you still had Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, all the guys that like Falcons fans were complaining they didn't use him well enough. He didn't hit whatever. At 7-10 in the NFL, like again, I said this jokingly on our show the other day, like that's a lifetime contract for the Bengals.
Exactly. Just don't be terrible. Don't embarrass
Just
the
be
program.
good enough to not embarrass us.
And also with that, he's a guy that came up in the ranks at Tennessee. Actually started on the defensive side of the ball, but he who was telling me this? So, Rick Neuheisel goes, I was going to hire him at UCLA. Because I talked to, he knew his dad. He talked to me. He's like, I was going to hire him as a GA, and then he took the North Carolina job.
Yeah.
And he was actually on the defensive side of the ball, then kind of flipped with Tennessee in the offense. But the one thing that people complained about this year was the run game. And if you look at what he was able to do with that Tennessee run game, how good they were when he was there under Mike Vrabel before getting that Falcons job, like that's a huge win.
And even Steelers fans.
Was he an offensive line coach too, or an offensive lineman?
He was an offensive lineman at
yes,
North Carolina in
so
college.
he's played the position.
If there's one thing the Steelers fans weren't complaining about, it was their run game on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were doing it with like a tight end playing halfback a lot of the year. So it's a really I don't know how you look at it any way other than it being a home run right now. I mean, obviously the season will play out and you'll get a sense then if it works, but. On paper, it's nothing if not a home run.
The thing it comes down to is Ryan has every hire that he's kind of brought in or had to bring in has really knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien was only here for a week, but we were excited about that to see what he was going to bring. To have a guy who wasn't fired from a job, his head coach just kind of quit. It's not like, he had a bad year, he got fired, he's looking for something. It's just like, well, his head coach quit. Maybe there wasn't any NFL opportunities. He saw Ohio State and within 2 weeks said, yeah, I want to be a part of that. And I think the discussions Ryan and him have had, I mean, they got to have a good feeling for each other, right? You're going to come in here, we're going to mold this offense together. You're going to bring your experience from the NFL or anything that you have into what we do already and just, make it better. So I trust, I've always trusted Ryan. I think a lot of people were probably just like, these 2 weeks, everything seemed like it was going really, really bad. Like, we got to hire somebody, and then when the dust settles, we got a lot of good recruits coming in for next year. We got some good coaches coming in. Everything is fine.
And former NFL head coaches on both sides of the football. And I think there was something that you said that sparked something in my brain, Jay-Z, which is about Ryan Day and the hiring process. And almost every time that he has gone externally and taken his time, those hires have gone well. When you say that there's been mixed bags, if we say that, a lot of that has been the internal stuff. If you think at the very start, whether you're talking about Jeff Hafley or Matt Patricia a year ago, Bill O'Brien and Chip Kelly 2 years ago, we'll see what this is like with Art Smith now. But if it wasn't perfect a year ago on offense, well, Brian Hartline, but that was an internal promotion coming up through the ranks. I put Kerry Combs in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like when they haven't worked
for consistency,
it's sort of been like looking for consistency, and hasn't evolved the coaching staff to the future. I just don't think. We certainly can't say that about Art Smith. We definitely couldn't say that about Matt Patricia.
No, and what we can say about Art Smith, a couple other things too. To go back, and we'll talk about the first and the second and the double helix of coaching hires that we've had. Art Smith's grandfather started the precursor to Waffle House. So Schlegel was super juiced about that. Not the FedEx situation.
The Huddle House?
The fact that the Huddle House, the precursor to Waffle House, because he's like, I'm Waffle House ready. So we need to figure out.
Is he going to have to start saying huddle now?
I don't know.
Huddle House ready?
And that's kind of it. So he was super juiced about that. I was like, but you do know his dad founded FedEx, right? I mean, do we get some NIL deals?
Do we have our NIL donor that we've been claiming
full transparency for our shows. On Saturday,
did you ask him about that?
Well, Birm and I were recording a Snap Judgments, and Birm brought up the NIL, and maybe they can just ask Art Smith's dad. I said, let's delete this.
I didn't do a whole lot of research on his dad.
Said his dad is passed.
Life?
He's not.
We're not.
He said he founded. He's not.
Let's not set that tone.
actively.
Let's wait a couple days and then make a joke about it. Let's not have that.
Well, I don't want to make a joke about it at all. Now that I know his father has passed, I'm not going to make a joke about it. But I'd still like your money, please.
He was on that plane with Tom Hanks.
Oh no, he's on the island.
Wilson.
Even Jay-Z knows.
Wilson.
FedEx.
It was 20 years ago. So
I was into movies back then.
That's in the wheelhouse.
That was a good one.
There are there is a real sense here, and I think when people look at this, the run game piece of it is why he's the hire.
Yes.
So we can go through all of the other boxes that check, but he's the run game guy, and that's what Ryan Day, I think, realized after last year and after a year away from Chip and Justin Fry. They have to get that sort of combination because Ryan Day has worked alongside Billy Fessler and Keenan Bailey for a decade, essentially. Those guys know how to run the passing side of his offense. So you had to bring in somebody that brought a different perspective and a different approach on the run side of things that can work with Tyler Bowen, who, despite the fact that Tyler looks still like he could play offensive line, hasn't coached offensive line but 1 year in the last decade. So he's getting a real bonus with Arthur Smith with Tyler Bowen, which I think is really important.
JZ, what was your initial reaction on Saturday to this hiring? I'm just collecting the opinions like infinity.
Kind of, I was surprised. I guess I hadn't thought of Art Smith coming to Columbus. I didn't think about the Steelers and their coaching staff that may be looking for new jobs.
Oh, those guys are all fired. They're going to have to find one.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to, I didn't think about that. The Dayball, the guys who had been, kind of already fired, looking for jobs.
Well, Dayball's still interviewing for head coaching jobs.
Then there's that.
People are like, why aren't they hiring Dayball? Like, well, because he's up for head coaching jobs in the NFL still.
He has multiple offensive coordinator availabilities for him. He has head coaching interviews. That was, again, a lot of people. I think there
were 10 jobs open.
Ohio State was obviously interested in him, but that was one job of many.
Yeah, so I mean, you had heard all that stuff. I don't think Art Smith was really thrown out there as hey, we're maybe this guy would be somebody they're going to talk to. Not a big Steelers fan, admittedly. I don't know much about their offense. I know Aaron kind of went there and had a year. I mean, they made it to the playoffs, so you got to have some kind of competent offense to do so. At least you're not turning the ball over a ton and putting your team into bad positions a lot, I would imagine. But the experience, I think it's a home run. You're getting a different viewpoint of everything, whether it's run game, pass game. He's picked up a lot throughout the years. He's been a head coach in the league, offense coordinator. He's going to be able to be a source of knowledge for Ryan if he just talking football. You know how it goes. You get into a room and hey, well, what if we did this? Boom, boom. He's going to bring a lot of that. So I think it's great. And like I said, I trust in Ryan and the hires that he's made. Bringing people from outside in. I think it's going to be a home run.
The two things I heard on Saturday, right, really when this started to break, was that the decision ultimately seemed like it came down to Arthur Smith and Matt Nagy, but that Smith was the choice because of the run game component.
Yeah, Matt Nagy's more of a pass game guy.
And that the powers that be in the Woody were convinced from speaking with Arthur Smith that he really wanted to get back to the college game, and that he chose to go to the college game. This was, as you said, this wasn't a situation where a guy couldn't get a job in the NFL. He was choosing that. He's 43 years old. He's got 3 small children. There's a lot of the things that fit inside of the Woody from a personality standpoint that he is a perfect fit for. And so that combination of things ultimately is what pushed the chips into that pile.
The part that I find the most fascinating, you talked about it right off the jump, Bob, was people looking at Pittsburgh or Atlanta or the record, and you could do the same thing with Matt Patricia at Detroit.
Oh yeah, people have said that. I'm I knew Matt personally, so I knew it was different. I got to do a little more research.
For sure. Well, we're going to see how this plays out.
I know he coached for Braves, and that's
some of the feedback, and there are other people that were in Tennessee with some ties to Ohio State who could vouch for Arthur Smith as well. But I find it amusing that the evaluation on if Art Smith can or cannot work for Ohio State is based on winning 21 games with the Falcons and not being above 500. The job requirements could not be more
vastly different. Yeah. And one of the other things with Pittsburgh, I heard people lament, it's just more of a 3 tight end offense. Pittsburgh did do a lot of some 13 and 12. And and that was my point, was who are their other receivers?
Yeah, they didn't have anybody else.
Outside of DK.
Their tight ends were playing running back.
Yeah, but you were watching, Bob, and throughout Conference Championship weekend and the end of the NFL playoffs, how many times did you hear, well, teams are counteracting the nickel, they're starting to go back to heavier personnel? That is what the NFL is doing, is what Ryan Day and Brian Hartline were trying to do a year ago. It didn't quite work for them, but now you have someone who majored in that at the NFL level.
Well, and there's different schemes. In the NFL, you have to be really good in scheme. If you're not, you will get exposed, unless you just have great talent. In the NFL, it's really hard. You can get great talent, but keeping it is really difficult because you can only keep so much of it. All of a sudden, guys' contracts start turning over. We drafted this dude in the 4th round, and now he's one of the number 2 wide receivers in the free agent class, or this tight end's got to be paid, or offensive line. We can't keep them together the way we could. So you have to be able to go out there when you're playing someone who is fairly equal ability and to out-scheme them. And it seems like watching Pittsburgh this year, I did not think their offense had a plethora of talent, if you will. Mm-hmm. They knew what they could kind of do. Hey, we can run the ball. As long as we don't put Aaron in just crazy tough situations, he can get the ball out. He'll find open guys. And we've got our one kind of deep shot in DK Metcalf. And then he gets hurt, and it's like, okay, well, now we just have to play small ball down the field.
Yeah.
And Aaron's like scrambling and running for 12 yards on a 3rd and 8, which
and we're not talking about 26-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that was not by design. He got lambasted a few times because they struggled blocking up front. Like, their offensive line wasn't great. So I think they had to go to some tight end stuff for protection, also for the run game, also due to the fact that they lacked a lot of wide receivers. So it's kind of a threefold situation. They had the one dude from Georgia who's like 6'8", 300 pounds. Like,
the tight end. He was a beast.
You play tackle, and you're kind of like a tight end. Like, just go post dudes up, and Aaron will throw you the ball, which is what they kind of had to do. But I look at that, it's like, okay, well, that's what you had to do out of necessity. You didn't have, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate out there. So you had to kind of manufacture. You had one guy who was pretty good. You didn't have the other. Well, this year, hopefully, Chris Henry comes along. You've got Brandon Ennis. You've got some other young guys that you're developing. You've got a good core of tight ends and offensive line that really, depending on how this shakes out, depending if you end up moving, no one's really talked about this, and it's probably a bigger conversation, potentially, do move Austin Saravelt around a little bit.
Or Phillip Daniels. Yeah, either way.
Phillip Daniels, so you can get maybe Ian Moore on the field. Guys have to start taking jumps, but if they do, you've got 4 pretty good pieces that you feel good about. It's just kind of where you put the 5th and where those other guys can move. So you've got a much broader palette to be able to select from.
Yeah, if he's looking at this team, he says, well, I got a bunch of guys returning on the offensive line, skill position guys back. Like, why wouldn't I want to go coach this offense?
Let me ask you this, Bob, because I think there's, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because I certainly am not the X's and O's schematical guru, but I don't think that Matt Patricia really changed a lot of the Ohio State defense from a year ago. I think obviously there's certainly some adjustments based on personnel and your strengths, but it's not like fundamentally the defense, other than the way it was communicated, changed, right?
The communication piece was different. The one thing they did do a little bit more is some like odd fronts, some 5 down.
Which you're required to do because you lost JT Jack. Ty.
Well, you'd be amazed. I don't know if that was what is the easy change to get that pulled off. But
my point is, Arthur Smith is not coming in and taking Arthur Smith's dream offense and saying, screw Ryan Day's offense, we're going to do whatever I want to do. Like, this is still Ryan Day's offense that Arthur Smith will bring pieces into and perspective into and scheme into that Ohio State hasn't used and make it a stronger version of Ryan Day's offense.
And to your point in that, I said anyone who they were bringing in had to feel confident because they weren't going to change terminology.
Right.
They were going to keep things as they were. And
you don't do that to Julian heading into this year with this schedule.
Supposed to be his jump year. Like, he sat for a year, played for a year. Now, hopefully, and Jay-Z can attest, your 3rd year, like, okay, I kind of already have the answer.
Feel pretty comfortable in everything that you're doing.
I'm seeing this, not instead of like, wait, what could I call? Like, okay.
Yeah, there's no like, all right, how is this play going? It's all right, how are they going to attack this play? I know where everybody's going to be. I know what my reads are, but what could they do to, you just become so much more comfortable. So yes, changing that all for him in spring ball, probably not something you want to do. Let's keep the train rolling here. Artie, come on in and make this better.
That's right. For me, like the Matt Patricia experiment, one of the things that stood out to me the most of the entire process is like Matt's humility through it all.
Yeah.
And I think Arthur Smith in this position, that humility has to be a part of this. And that's like, you wouldn't take this job if you weren't ready to give a little so you can get a little bit back, because he's going to get to be a coach again at a spot where he has players he's never, like a talent advantage he hasn't ever had as a head coach or as a head coach of the offense or anything. So I think it's just a really interesting fit. But people who are like, oh, the Buckeyes offense is going to be all 14 personnel and 13 personnel. Like, no, it's not. Like, it's going to be back to It's going to be what it was
doesn't
a year
mean that
ago.
you're not going to see some
And we
of it.
might see it, yes.
Because you're going to see some.
Because Ohio State still, if you ask anybody in that building down the road, doesn't think they played too slow. They don't think they just didn't execute, and they didn't have explosive
big
players
spots
when they needed to have explosive plays. So I think that is still the focus. I don't think there's anybody down the street who thinks that fundamentally the offense was broken a year ago. It was just missing some key components, and they think they addressed that with guys like Kyle Parker and the second year of Bo and the advanced elevation of Julian Sand. So I think they think, well, we have all the pieces here. Now you just have to have somebody who can collate them.
All the pieces always in place on an appetizer Thursday.
Collate them. I don't know if I'd ever
collate them.
You don't want to collate
them.
You don't need to collate the offense, but you do
collate these mozzarella
need
sticks.
to collect some mozzarella sticks on an appetizer Thursday. What do we got over there? Look at that.
They're so great. I mean, listen.
Little fingers of cheese, gooey cheese.
Did you taste test? Did it get a
Not yet, but the smell came and hit me like a tidal wave.
Crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside, warm side of marinara sauce. Really the perfect appetizer for a cold, blustery winter day. Come inside, just get warmed up.
Wouldn't it be great if we could actually see the sun again and get?
It was super sunny.
April.
Yesterday was super sunny. I was like, it was like living in Colorado. Yeah. I come inside, I'm like, it's so bright out. What's going on?
Yeah. Anyway, it's warm inside at your local Roosters establishment. It's a fun casual joint. It is open and available for you, and you can get mozzarella sticks for $1, $2, $3 on appetizer Thursday. So there was another massive pickup to the Ohio State coaching staff. Bobby teased it. We'll talk about it in the second half of the show as we roll along on the live show, brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems at Roosters, a fun casual joint.
The Roosters Foundation helps us be able to give back to the community. It's part of our culture within the company.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Precision engineering, rigorous attention to detail. A Bryant Evolution heating system is so well designed, it's as much of a joy to install as it is to use.
Good to go.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
Schedule your appointment today with Carpenter Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electric at carpentercolumbus.com.
Welcome back into Roosters, and now it's about to get bumpy. Gas station ready, Huddle House, all gas, no brakes.
We should have had like music and Schlegs come jumping through the window or something.
No,
we don't want to ruin this nice fine establishment.
Down in his office down the street.
If today was mac and cheese bites, I think it probably
could have got him.
I don't know. He's always lurking around with the mac and cheese bites, but maybe he can have to put those on the back burner right now if he's back in the weight room. So, Bob,
did I just see that Darian Mensah and Duke came to a settlement?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's our new era of college football.
So settlement meaning he's leaving?
He's going to go to Miami.
Okay. I wonder what that settlement looked like then.
What?
I wonder who Duke's going to get. Yeah, I get that, but you have all the money in the world, but who are you going to get to play quarterback?
They had already brought in somebody in the last couple of weeks under the premise that they were going to have to replace him. So, it's not a good one. It's not Darian Mensah. I know that.
Yeah, that's my point.
Isn't that fun?
I would be like Washington and be like, all right.
You were
let's
talking
go ahead.
about
We're going to put our
NFL teams having to worry about their fourth-round picks making that jump and paying for them. Like, welcome to college football, pal. That's the way this is working.
Yeah, that's at least the Big Ten appears to have a little more under control.
So how does a guy like Anthony Schlegel work in today's football with situations like that? Because we know Schlegel well enough. You know him very well. This is going to piss a guy like him off, right? Is he able to just separate it and say, my job, my kingdom is the weight room, and I can't care about anything else?
Yeah, I don't think he worries about the off-the-field stuff.
Like, I think he's going to train he's going to melt the faces off anybody who comes in the weight room. I could hear him answering that.
His thing when he got to Jacksonville, and I talked to him about this, and just the modern player, which even college and the NFL, they're much more similar than they were ever before. Now there's a lot more development.
Well, sure. He started with Zeke and the Bosas and all, all that stuff. So
and even playing and like being around it, there's been a big shift in that over the last 20 years, and so especially in the NFL. But now it's true, I think, even in college, where if guys believe that you can add value to them and make them better, they will listen. and they'll respect you. And like that's what Schlegel is all about: is how can I help you be better at what you do to help the team and then help yourself later on down the road. And I mean, he shows up with intensity every day to work, and so there's days where maybe you don't want to, but he's like, you tell me what you want and I'm going to give you that. So when you commit to this, I'm going to be that every day for you. And so those guys, they ultimately appreciate it, I think. And he's a very personable guy. And he can work with you and have conversations.
No, really?
Yeah, I mean, he talks to anybody. He's the only guy I know that, I mean, regardless of where he's played, where he's been, you know, from DeSoto to Highland Park to Air Force to, you know, the Jets, the Bengals, the Orlando Tuskers, coaching at Ohio State. I mean, just it doesn't matter. Everybody's always gotten along with him because he has the unique ability to be relatable to people from very vast demographics, and not many people can do that.
So the question is, and of course you're a meathead. You're a guy who spent some time in the gym, right? What does he?
I don't think that makes him a meathead.
Sure, it does.
Oh.
No, it does. Yeah.
What for the Ohio State fan, for the lunatic fringe out there that's been calling for Mick Marotti's job for the last 5 years?
People have been doing that.
Yeah.
Who are those people?
I missed the
what difference? What does Schlegel bring to the Ohio State strength and conditioning program?
That's the furthest element that's out there.
Right.
It's not very common.
Pluto. It was a planet. Now it's a dwarf planet.
To be criticizing the most successful strength coach in college football.
But what does Schlegel bring
he's won
different?
4 national championships as a head coach, strength coach.
You can look in the developed here a number of NFL draft picks and the people still on rosters at the highest level that worked.
That's really a thing.
It's not really.
Everything is a thing at some point in time. Yeah,
I love that.
Get enough people typing.
When we struggle, I appreciate a good debrief, and we're going to analyze everything.
The fan base dives into every detail.
But that's where we chose the lane.
I had a fan base who thought Julian was going to be in a quarterback competition this spring.
With who?
St. Clair.
So the question is, what does Schlegel bring different?
They're everywhere.
How does he help modernize / evolutionize the Ohio State strength and conditioning program compared to the guys that just left to go to with Hart?
AT was really good. Antonio Turner did a great job here, and I don't know if it's any type of revolutionizing.
Is it just personality?
I think it is. Everybody's different. You can't have a homogenous staff of personality. That goes for the full coaching staff, football coaches, strength coaches, trainer, everybody. You have to have people that are different, people that are just all gas, no brakes all the time. Maybe some people that are a little more reserved, because there are people that need different things from different folks. And so he gives them now that the traditional strength coach guy that you see
old school.
You see in the memes on the
sidelines. The guy that you see on the sidelines that are.
He gives you a guy that'll tackle.
What do you mean? Someone who might give a rock bottom to a fan who runs on the field?
You know, but every day coming in, like he's in it. He's on it. And I love, he's got a good relationship, I think, with Matty P and James and some of those guys. So, hey, what do your guys need to get better? Mm-hmm. Like Utah, what are you envisioning them doing? Okay, well then let me, because he's one of the few strength coaches that's still like football guy too. It's like, all right, especially guys who are maybe not corners quite as much, but even safeties, like guys that are internal position players. What do you need to do? This is the skill set you have. These are your strengths. These are your weaknesses. How do we enhance the strengths? But then how do we really make sure that we start to help tail off those weaknesses a little bit and maybe cut that off a little and start pushing that more toward a neutral category? You get that by talking to your coaches. You get that by watching the guys on the field. And you're, all right, this guy, maybe he's a little stiff here. Maybe he doesn't have great explosion. Maybe he's a little tight. Maybe he's not upper body strong.
Needs a little better shin angle.
Angle. I mean, listen, if we can't recruit guys with good shin angles, I'm going to be honest with you. I come in there and watch him measure. I'm like, I'm 43 years old. If you can't get a shin angle that I have, then my dry rotted Achilles can bend and get a better angle than yours can, then you off.
Get out of here.
Don't want to see you anymore.
Can't win with him.
Obviously,
can't do it.
We'll never talk about an assistant strength coach as much as we'll talk about this one.
Well, I mean, because he's an alum.
But so the question is, for me, it is Schlegel, because he came up in the urban era, the 4th and 1 every minute of the day type,
Well, as a coach.
Yeah, but that mentality, I think there are some people.
I believe we call it the all-cost mentality.
Well, call it whatever you want.
There's a sign.
Above the line.
Somehow they got rid of that sign. We can't, by the way, I don't even know if we're trying to win anymore. We didn't have a level 3 snow emergency that's getting rid of the lifting. I mean, despite the fact that most of the kids
are soft nowadays,
they've never driven in the snow, and they all drive like nice sports cars
without driver's license.
They all got rear-wheel drive. They can't get out of their apartments right now.
I don't know. We pushed back the show from Monday to Tuesday, so we're part of the
problem. I was here yesterday, too.
Part of the problem. Yeah. Part of the problem. But I said, are we trying to win? Is that still a thing? Are we trying to win anymore? He's like, well, level 3. I was like, I don't care if it's level 20. Find a way.
Oh, there'd have been dudes in the weight room back in our day on a level 3.
Urban, you'd be like, whatever you need, the answer is always yes. I remember saying something, and someone looked at it, and he just saw like this and pointed to the sign and said at all costs.
So we may have needed you to break down a door back in the day, but somebody would have been in that weight room.
At all costs.
Charge it to winning.
You know what Schleg's like, hey, we got some guys that need to gain some weight. You know what we're going to do? You go in there, and you're going to go get that. You're going to get that muscle milk RTD. Does it taste the best? No. But he's like, Bob used to break down the doors in the offices to get those terrible.
We got those things. It was like Christmas morning. You could walk out there with a case of those without getting yelled at.
Gatorade shakes, you drink 3 drink 2 or 3 of those. He's like, I want you to drink this so that you know how much the handmade one in the nutrition room.
Yeah, the one your chef is making for you.
How good that tastes. Plus, it's more protein. Go Bucks. Go get it. Go get it done.
So, Birm and I broke down some guys who need to make the most of these winter workouts last week on the Austin Birm Show. Jay-Z, where would you begin as Mickey Marotti and Anthony Schlegel really get rolling here?
I think this is a big offseason for Julian. I don't think we had enough time last year for him to really maybe put on a little bit of muscle and kind of fill out a little bit. Now, he's still young, so he's still growing, and that's going to happen. But I think, if they're able to just put a little bit of meat on him, that's going to help everything out. Just with him getting a little bit faster and getting into maybe running or up into the pocket and just feeling a more better about taking a hit.
Physically comfortable.
More get that shin angle right on the quarterback.
We don't care about that.
Better shin angle.
We don't care about shin angle.
No, it's a quarterback sneak.
Well, you know what? Maybe that is an issue for the quarterback sneaks. Yeah. You should get in there and talk to him about that.
Breaking it down.
I had physical trainers tell me, PTs, tell me for years, like, I have a steep lordosis in my back, and Urban's like, we want to recruit guys like that. And I'm like, exactly. I watch all these guys run on the Olympics. That's how they're built. I want to try to get built like that. And then PT's like, it's hard on your back. I don't care. And then finally, Dr. Stu over there, Adam Stewart, he goes, well, they've done studies. He's like, an anterior pelvic tilt. He's like, the reason why all those people are fast is because it flips down. He's like, you're basically like running downhill with your body the rest of the time. Like, finally, someone diagnosed it and made some sense. So we're going to figure this thing out. What do we need to do? Recruit guys like this that look like this, they're built like that run shin angle included, whatever.
Can you alter that if you're not born with it?
Anterior pelvic tilt, you can do things to enhance it, yes. But, I mean, they were trying to do things to neutral back out. Like, why would I want to be like that? So I can be an accountant?
Why would you want to be that way?
As Troy Smith.
Go sit up in the press box?
Your guy Troy also eloquently called one of our former teammates suitcase butt because he had a terrible hips and rear end backside. So
we don't have to name who that is. Bob, who would you
I just want to guess.
I don't know if you would even know him, but we'll talk about it off air.
Was it Juan?
No. It's someone that we've seen recently. He was not a prominent position player, and he only came in here. I think he was a grad transfer that came in for maybe a year or 2.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he remembers.
We got a suitcase butt over there. I'm like, it's a pretty accurate description, but I don't know if I've ever thought. The fact that you got to that point in your mind that's what we would call this guy is his name.
Yeah. So he picks the quarterback as the guy that needs the big winter workout session. That's not entirely surprising. Julian was the first guy that I brought up last week when we did the show. Because of that reason, I think from a physical standpoint, you saw the difference in the playoff game against Miami and the Big Ten Championship, having a quarterback who can just go get you those 3 yards when you need it.
Yeah, you saw Fernando bouncing off a couple guys, stretching across. Julian's not doing that.
Some of that
He's
is
going to take that first hit. And
Julian's 6'1", and Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza are 6'4", 6'5".
But they're also like 25 years old.
And neither one of those guys, you would immediately think, well, that's a dual threat quarterback. And both of them got, Fernando Mendoza to win the national championship, Carson Beck to
beat Ole Miss,
pull off the upset, not just to get score against Ole Miss, but
to be
starting 11 against Ohio State. So all that stuff.
So I went the same way initially, but then there's a lot of other positions and a lot of individual players that I think are on the clock really this winter heading into spring ball. But
defensive line has got to be one of them, right?
Edric Houston's a guy like you're hoping that that elevates himself because he started to ascend at the end of last year, but now it's like you ran into your brick wall last year about August, and you got through it. So now how far can you go? When you're bringing in guys like James Smith or John Walker to be presumptive defensive tackle starters, like if Edric wants to be that guy, like this next month is pretty dang important for Edric Houston. But who would you have in your mind?
So Edric Houston is one guy where just simply the fact that he came in as a D end and he was a bigger D end, they slide him inside, which I think is where he's going to probably live a little more. And he's gained some weight, but the way that he's built, like him getting lower body strength to be able to anchor, he's great, like pass rush, get up the field, do those things, but to be able to anchor on guys, that development of lower body strength, like that's something that's going to be key for him to be able to be, not that him and K-Mac were completely different body types and type of players, but you need to be able to integrate a little bit more of that into your game. You don't need to be what he was, but you have to be part of what he could do. So I think that is a very astute example that you could put on the defensive side of the ball. It's interesting because you lose 2 linebackers that play at a time. And so some version here, and some of this is going to depend exactly how they play. But I think Quay Rashaw, call him Q. I think he's physically where he probably needs to be for the most part. Is it Christian Allegro?
Christian Allegro, yeah.
Christian Allegro. He's got a huge frame and he moves pretty well, but I think that there's some mass and like there's some intensity that you could add. Just watching him play last year, he does some things really well, possibly just being a little more firm, and that's going to be the physical development on him. And then it's really just for Riley Pettijohn and TJ Alford, because I think TJ Alford can be an on-the-ball guy, long arms. He's done some things that were really good. It's just kind of like Julian. Yeah. Okay, now that you kind of know what to do, now we've got to stack another 10 pounds on you and take that physical element, a little bit higher. Like Peyton Pierce, I feel like is pretty good. I've got to get to know most of some of the D-line transfers a little bit better, and most of the rest of the defensive line left. So
I wrote about that.
Will Smith Jr. is probably another guy getting sterner. Like his is a little bit similar to.
You could see some of the injuries and stuff, tapering off.
Yes,
the year,
getting more physical, like being a stouter piece at the point.
It's nuts though. You think about the defensive tackle situation. Obviously, you lose Caden McDonald, you lose Tywan Malone, you lost all 3 of the 2025 freshman signees.
So they're gone.
Then you lost Eric Mensah. It's you lost 6 guys from that room. When you have. You can speak to this just from time in the NFL going franchise to franchise, but when you get into a place as a new guy and you walk in this time of year, like how hard is that for John Walker or James Smith or Quay Rashaw or Earl Little or Terry Moore to walk in and say, hey, this is now my team? Do you take that approach at all, or is it like I have to
I think those guys, especially when they're not eat humble pie, but it's you got to show for 2 weeks. You got to show for a couple
6 a.m.'s our time where you're going to keep your head down, you're going to be quiet, you're going to give all the effort in the world. They're going to come out of that saying, this guy's legit.
This is one of the things where apparently the fringe that doesn't like Mickey Marotti, the very outer fringes of the fringe, if you will, that maybe doesn't like Mickey Marotti and thinks whatever, unless we can question techniques, we can talk about this and that. The one thing he does I think is really good is they make everything competitive. And so the way you earn your respect from your teammates is winning those competitions, going against guys that are of like size, like skill, like toughness, and just out grinding them in that. And that's one of the things Will Howard, when he came in, for his ability to earn that, he had to go do that. And it wasn't easy because you've been a starter for a long time at Kansas State, but nobody knows about what he does here.
Yeah.
So you've got to
Max Clare, I feel like got that last year. What is this?
You got to lay the groundwork.
Got to catch up here.
Yeah, you got to lay the groundwork. So I think that some of those guys, that'll be done here over the next 2 weeks. And then as you start to turn the calendar to April, that's all of a sudden those guys start to really kind of maybe spread their wings a little bit, get a little more vocal, start talking a little more, and then start kind of merging in with, the Jermaine Matthews of the world, the Peyton Pierces of the world. Devin Sanchez is a guy, I know you're only a sophomore, but Bud, you played a lot last year. You played, was that the Miami game? Yeah, you came in.
Well, that was, I mean, he was on the cover of the video that we're talking. Like, he is one of those guys that if he doesn't become what Ohio State felt like he was going to be when they recruited him, then all of a sudden there is a huge hole.
Then you regret Aaron Scott leaving.
Right. Yep.
Like, he needs to be what they expect him to be right now. And so, like, that's another guy. Like, he probably, I don't know about adding weight for him. Like, he's a big dude. He's long. He's athletic, a couple pounds maybe. But it's really just the maturation of your body. Because he's a physical guy. He's a really good tackler. And so how do you just get continually better at that and be able to go against JJ every day in practice and start winning more than maybe you lose against a guy? Like, that's a great litmus test there every day, buddy. Like, how good am I?
If you want to get better, you're going against him every time he steps up. I got this guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's those winter workouts are ramping up, and it's hard to believe because now, like, January is practically over.
Yeah.
Spring ball starts, I think, 6 weeks from today. So it's going to be here before we know it. But plenty more to talk about every day on the Austin and Birm shows. We break down the Buckeyes. And every week at the live show at Roosters, a fun casual joint, which today, it is a Tuesday.
Smashing.
We weren't here on Monday.
Let's go.
Thank you for your patience waiting for that show. You can actually get a look at those mozzarella sticks right here.
So delicious.
And if your roads are clear, be safe out there and go grab them.
Hey,
Roosters is available.
You can
just take a chance.
Just go off-road.
Yeah. They're worth it.
They're worth it.
That's full disclaimer. That's Justin. That's not me.
The views expressed in this show.
But be safe.
I don't think that Roosters condones that either. Be safe. Or Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems. Appreciate both of them for their support of the live show. And I appreciate Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham for sharing their thoughts on the Buckeyes. Couple big hires in place and a lot more we'll be breaking down next week when we return to Roosters. It's a fun casual joint.